The first thing I heard was my phone buzzing like a fire alarm. 5:02 a.m., pitch black outside, and a number I didn't recognize. I answered half asleep, and a man's voice came through like he owned my morning. "Open your gate. My kid needs to load firewood. The HOA says it's fine." I sat up so fast my heart punched my ribs. "My gate," I said, still trying to figure out if I was dreaming. "You've got the wrong person." "No," he snapped like I was being difficult on purpose. "You're the farm guy. We need access. Don't make this a thing." And that right there, those words, was the moment I knew this wasn't about firewood. It was about someone testing how much of my life they could take if they spoke with enough confidence. I swung my legs out of bed and looked at the live feed on my security app, thumb shaking a little. The camera pointed at my gate was grainy in the dark, but the motion sensor had popped it on. Two figures stood at the entrance, and one of them had something long and metal in his hands. A crowbar. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like my body forgot what gravity was supposed to do. I didn't scream. I didn't run out there with a baseball bat like some action movie hero. I did the one thing I knew would keep me alive and keep me legal. I called the sheriff's non-emergency line, and I kept the camera recording. By the time Deputy Cole Ramirez rolled up, the two guys had already backed off and vanished into the darkness like cockroaches when you flick on the kitchen light. Cole leaned on his cruiser, squinted at my screen, and just sighed. "Let me guess," he said. "Homeowners Association." I nodded, jaw clenched. "Apparently. I'm not even in their neighborhood." He pointed at my phone like it was a loaded weapon. "Don't argue with them over text," he warned. "They'll drag you into their rules like quicksand. Document everything. Keep your hands clean." I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't even the beginning. The very next morning, I found a letter on my porch, crisp paper, official-looking, the kind of envelope that feels expensive just to touch. The header said Homeowners Association in bold, and the signature at the bottom was a name I'd never heard before. Diane Whitaker, HOA President. The letter said I was refusing emergency access and that I'd be fined $200 a day until I complied. $200 a day. I read it twice, then a third time, like the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. My hands were shaking, and I wasn't sure if it was anger or that weird fear you get when you realize someone is willing to lie with confidence, and people might believe them. I didn't call Diane. I didn't drive to their clubhouse and make a scene. I did what my dad always taught me to do when someone comes at you with fake authority: get the paperwork. I printed my deed. I pulled the county parcel map. I highlighted the property line in bright neon like I was back in school. And I wrote a letter back that was polite enough to look calm, but sharp enough to cut. "My property lies outside your association's jurisdiction," I wrote. "Any further attempts to enter will be treated as trespass." I felt good for about 12 hours. Then Diane escalated. A week later, another packet arrived, thicker, nastier, full of violations that sounded like someone had walked around my land with a clipboard and a grudge. Dust from my gravel drive, the sound of my tractor, visual nuisance, the way my fence impacted community aesthetic, and the line that made my blood go cold: failure to cure grants the HOA the right of access to remedy violations. The right of access to my land. I stared at that sentence until my eyes burned. And for the first time, just for a second, I wondered if I was the crazy one. Maybe I should just give them a key, I thought. Maybe it's easier. Maybe I'm being stubborn. Maybe I'm the guy on the street everyone whispers about, the selfish one who won't help the community. That thought hit me like a punch to the throat because I hated how quickly it showed up. That's what bullies do, especially the ones in nice clothes with letterhead and board in their title. They don't have to break your bones. They just have to make you doubt your own right to exist. I called my cousin Sam Reed that night because Sam used to work around property law, and if anyone was going to tell me whether I was about to wreck my life over a gate, it was her. She listened quietly, then said, "Jack, they're bluffing, but it's the kind of bluff that costs you if you don't push back." "What do I do?" I asked, and I hate that my voice sounded small. "You hit them with paper," she said. "Not emotions, not yelling, paper. You file complaints, you request records, you force them into daylight." Daylight. That word stuck with me. Because Diane Whitaker and Todd Benson. Yeah, I found out the 5 a.m. guy's name weren't just trying to get access. They were relying on shadows, confusion, people being too tired or too scared to fight. So I made a decision, and it felt like stepping off a cliff. I called a locksmith named Nina Patel and told her I needed something weird. "I want a key," I said, "that looks official, but opens nothing." There was a pause on the line, then Nina laughed like she'd heard it all. "I can do that," she said. "What are we catching?" I didn't answer. I just swallowed and said, "A liar." We made the fake key, and I packaged it like a gift. Nice envelope, little note that said, HOA gate key, per board request, even though I never promised them anything. I placed it in a small locked box near the edge of my driveway where the public road ended, and where my cameras could see it like it was center stage. Then I added one more thing. Sam insisted on one sentence that would matter later. "Use of this key constitutes trespass." And because I'm not stupid, I slipped a tiny tracker inside the envelope. If Diane wanted to play authority, I was going to let her. 2 mornings later, my phone pinged at dawn. Motion detected. I opened the live feed, and there she was, Diane Whitaker in a reflective vest hair, perfectly set, walking like the world was her board meeting. She didn't knock. She didn't call. She didn't ask. She opened my box, took the envelope, and marched straight to my gate like she was about to conquer it. I watched her slide the key in. Turn it. Jiggle it. Turn it again harder. And when it didn't work, she stepped back and looked around. Like the gate had betrayed her. I whispered to myself, "Oh, you really did it." Then she did the dumbest thing possible. She pulled out her phone and took a picture of my gate, like she was collecting evidence for her own lie. I saved the footage, backed it up, twice. And Sam helped me send a clean, calm email to the state office that handled consumer complaints and HOA misconduct. No drama, no insults, just facts. "Attempted unauthorized entry by HOA board members," the subject line said. Within days, I got a reply that made my hands go numb on the keyboard. An investigation had been opened. Now, I wish I could tell you that's when the neighborhood suddenly realized Diane was the villain and I was the hero. No. At first, the gossip got worse. A forum post went up calling me dangerous and anti-community. Someone wrote that my gate could delay emergency services. People I'd waved at for months suddenly wouldn't look at me. I felt like my own driveway had become a stage, and I was the bad guy in somebody else's story. That was my lowest point. I stood by my kitchen sink one night, staring out into the dark, and I thought, maybe I should sell. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe peace costs more than pride. And then my phone buzzed again. A message from Emily Carter, one of the younger moms in the HOA, someone I barely knew. "I need to show you something," she wrote. She sent screenshots from an HOA group chat board members talking about securing access, about pressuring the farm owner, about legal remedies. Not for emergencies, for control. Then she sent me a flyer, Todd Benson's number, on a Firewood delivery ad, bragging about sustainably gathered wood. And suddenly everything clicked so hard it made me furious all over again. They weren't trying to help anyone. They were trying to profit. Sam looked at the screenshots and said, "Okay, now we don't just defend, we flip it." So we set a trap, simple, clean, and legal. I placed an order for Firewood under a different name, and my friend Marty Hill retired. Teacher sharp as a tack agreed to accept delivery at a spot near the Greenbelt. I also asked a county officer who handled land use violations to swing by, just to observe. Saturday morning, the truck rolled up and Evan Benson hopped out like he owned the world. He started unloading and joked loud enough for everyone to hear, "Yeah, most of this is from common areas. Even grabbed some from behind the farm. That guy won't miss it." The officer stepped forward like a ghost materializing in daylight. "Do you have a permit for that?" he asked. Evan froze, mid-lift hands still on the wood face draining of color. My dad said it was fine," he stammered. That was the moment. Not because it was dramatic like a TV show, but because it was real, and it was recorded, and it had a witness who didn't care about Diane's title. After that, the paper trail didn't just grow. It exploded. The state investigator demanded meeting minutes, financial records, easement documents, proof of authority. Diane stalled, then tried to spin, then tried to blame. And finally the letter came. Cease and desist. Stop misrepresenting authority. Stop threatening non-members. Stop pretending the homeowners association owns the world outside its fence. I heard Diane tried to address the community with a newsletter full of fake calm and forced dignity, like she was doing everyone a favor by clarifying policy. But by then, people weren't nodding along anymore. They were asking questions. And the funny thing about questions is, they don't care how loud you are. At the next board meeting, Emily and Marty stood up and asked who approved those fines. who authorized access attempts, where the money from community services was really going. Diane didn't yell. She didn't have to. I heard her voice did that tight little wobble when a bully realizes the room has stopped being afraid. A month later, there was a posted notice. New board members Diane Whitaker removed, Todd Benson barred from committee involvement, a written acknowledgement that my land was private and outside HOA control. And on a quiet morning, I stood at my gate, my actual property line, and watched Todd drive past without slowing down. No crowbar, no phone call, no confidence. Just a man who finally understood that pretending doesn't make something yours. Lesson learned. If someone tries to rule you with paper lies, you beat them with real paperwork and daylight.